There is something happening inside you right now that you haven't been able to name. It isn't anxiety exactly. It isn't sadness. It lives somewhere between the two. In that quiet, restless space you return to at night when the noise of the day finally fades and the only voice left is your own. You've been feeling it for a while now. This strange pull, like two different currents running beneath the surface of your life, moving in opposite directions, and somehow you're caught in the middle of both. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share with you isn't just about love. It's about you, about the parts of yourself you've been too afraid to look at, and the parts that others have been too afraid to show you. There are two people in your world right now who carry feelings for you. Real feelings, not casual, not passing. The kind that settle into a person's chest and refuse to leave. One of them you may already sense. Their care feels familiar, safe, like a door left slightly open, warm light spilling through. The other one is different, and the difference isn't in how much they feel. It's in what they're hiding beneath those feelings. A secret. One that, if you knew it, would change the way you understand everything that has happened between you. And the most important thing I want you to hear, right now, in these first few moments, is this. You already know something is off. You've known it for a long time. Your body knew before your mind would let you believe it. Your heart has been quietly circling this truth for weeks, maybe months, maybe longer. Carl Jung once wrote that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And I would add to that, the second most terrifying thing is to see another person completely. Without the story you've built around them, without the version of them you've needed them to be. That moment is approaching for you now. So, let's begin at the beginning. Not at the moment you met them, but much earlier than that, at the place inside you where this all started. Long before these two people entered your life, you built something, quietly, privately, without even realizing you were doing it. You built a blueprint, a map of what love was supposed to look like, feel like, sound like. Psychologists call it an attachment template. Jung called it the anima, the internal image of the beloved that lives inside every woman's unconscious. This inner image was shaped by the first love you ever witnessed, the love between the people who raised you, the way affection was given or withheld in your childhood home. The moments you watched someone you trusted choose themselves over you. The moments you were told, either directly or through silence, that your needs were too much, or that love required you to shrink yourself to receive it. None of that was your fault, but all of it lives inside you, and every person you've been drawn to in your adult life has, in some way, reflected something from that original blueprint back at you. This is why the two people around you feel so different. One of them fits a part of the blueprint you're ready for, the evolved part, the part that has grown through your pain and your reflection and your quiet, stubborn commitment to becoming someone who loves herself better than she used to. The other fits a part of the blueprint that you're still releasing, the old pattern, the familiar ache, the dynamic that feels magnetic precisely because it mirrors something unresolved from a long time ago. And here's the part that will stay with you long after this ends. The secret one of them is hiding isn't just information. It isn't just a fact. It's a feeling they've been unable to confront in themselves, about you, about what they want, about who they are when they're with you. Secrets in relationships are never really about the secret itself. They're about fear. They're about the story someone has told themselves about what will happen if the truth comes out. Will you leave? Will you see them differently? Will the version of themselves they've carefully constructed around you begin to crack and crumble? This person cares about you deeply. That is not the lie. The caring is real. What is hidden is the part of themselves they have decided you cannot see. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And somewhere beneath the surface of every conversation you have with them, that hidden piece creates a frequency, a slight vibration of unease that your nervous system picks up even when your mind doesn't. You feel it as confusion, as that strange emotional weather that rolls in without explanation. One moment, everything feels right with them, and then, without warning, there's a shift, a distance, a carefully chosen word where a real one should have been, a smile that arrives slightly too late to be completely natural. You've asked yourself why. You've replayed conversations, analyzed silences, searched their eyes for something solid to hold on to. You've wondered if you're being too sensitive, too perceptive, too much. You are not too much. You are exactly perceptive enough. Jung taught that the psyche communicates through symbols and through feeling long before it communicates through conscious thought. When something in your gut refuses to settle, that is not weakness. That is your inner world doing exactly what it was built to do, protecting the deeper parts of you that have worked too hard and come too far to be brought back to a place of quiet suffering. Now let me tell you about the other one. This person doesn't fill a room the way the other one might. They don't arrive with the same electricity. Their love doesn't announce itself with fireworks or that dizzying rush of adrenaline that so many of us have been taught to mistake for passion. What they carry is quieter than that. It arrives like the feeling of stepping inside after being cold for a long time, like recognizing a piece of music you didn't know you'd been missing. Their presence doesn't make your heart race with anxiety. It makes your breathing slow. And this is where so many women get lost, including you, perhaps. Because we live in a culture that has romanticized chaos, that has told us love should feel dangerous and consuming and uncertain, that if it doesn't make you a little crazy, it probably isn't real. We've watched it in films, heard it in songs, absorbed it so deeply that when something genuinely peaceful appears, we mistake it for boredom. We call it no chemistry. We call it just a friend. We look past it searching for the electricity we've been conditioned to chase. But here is what Jung understood that most relationship advice never tells you. The love that undoes you is not always the love that is meant to complete you. Sometimes the love that undoes you is the love that is meant to teach you, to show you the wound so that you can finally heal it. The person who makes you feel most alive in a frantic, unstable, desperate way, that person is often the one holding a mirror up to your unfinished inner work, not the one walking beside you into who you're becoming. This doesn't mean the connection isn't real. It is. It's one of the most real things you've ever felt. But real doesn't always mean right. Real doesn't always mean lasting. Real doesn't always mean it's what your soul actually needs in this chapter of your life. The person whose love feels quieter, more consistent, more like coming home, they are showing you something too. They are showing you what it feels like when someone has done enough work on themselves to offer love without a hidden agenda attached to it. They see you, not the version of you that you perform for people, not the carefully edited highlights. They see the in-between moments, the doubt, the overthinking, the way you go quiet when something hurts. And they choose to stay in those moments without trying to fix you or run from you or use your vulnerability against you later. That is not a small thing. That is actually the rarest thing. But let's return to the secret, because you deserve to understand it more fully. Think about the times you felt that pull of unease with the one carrying something hidden. Has there been a pattern to when it appears? It likely doesn't come when things are casual or surface level. It comes in the deeper moments, when real vulnerability should naturally arise, when the conversation moves toward truth rather than performance. That is when they redirect. That is when the humor or the charm or the sudden distance appears. That is when you find yourself doing the emotional labor of filling a silence that they created but won't address. This pattern has a name in psychology. It's called emotional avoidance. And it doesn't come from cruelty. Most of the time, it comes from fear. from something in their own past that taught them that vulnerability leads to loss, that being fully known means being left, that the safest way to keep someone close is to give them just enough warmth, just enough attention, just enough of yourself, without ever offering the whole thing. The secret they are keeping from you isn't just a piece of information. It's the full version of themselves that they've decided, consciously or not, you cannot handle, or perhaps, more accurately, the full version of themselves that they cannot handle you seeing. And, in protecting that secret, they have, without intending to, been quietly asking you to carry the weight of the uncertainty it creates. They've been letting you wonder, letting you question yourself, letting you fill the space their truth should occupy with your own anxiety and doubt. This is not love in its fullest expression. This is love in its most frightened form. And you, with all your sensitivity and your empathy and your beautiful, enduring capacity to see the best in people, you have been absorbing the cost of their fear without even fully realizing it. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because the question isn't whether they care. They do. The question is whether their version of caring is one you want to continue accepting as enough. There's something Jung wrote about that I think about often when I think about women and love, and the particular way women experience the weight of a relationship's emotional truth. He talked about the persona, the mask we wear in public, the version of ourselves we construct for the world to see and accept. And he talked about the shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide even from ourselves. The desires, the fears, the wounds, the contradictions we've decided are too dangerous to bring into the light. Every person you've ever loved has a shadow, including you. That's not a flaw. That's just human. But the question in every intimate relationship is the same. Are we willing to let our shadows be seen? Are we willing to do the terrifying work of being fully known? The person hiding a secret from you is not willing. Not yet. And perhaps not ever. Because willingness to be truly known requires a level of self-acceptance and inner courage that can only come from a person who has chosen to look honestly at themselves, who has sat in their own discomfort without running from it, who has faced the places inside them that still need healing. That process cannot be rushed, and it cannot be loved into existence by someone else, not even by you. No matter how much you love someone, you cannot do their inner work for them. You cannot love them into wholeness. You cannot be patient enough, or understanding enough, or beautiful enough, or available enough to close the gap that only their own growth can close. This is one of the most painful truths in all of human love, and it is one of the most important ones. Because here is what happens when we try anyway, when we decide that if we just love harder, stay longer, understand deeper, maybe then they'll finally open up. Maybe then they'll feel safe enough to show us the thing they've been hiding. Maybe then they'll choose us fully, the way we've been choosing them. What happens is this. We lose ourselves in the space between who they are and who we need them to be. We slowly stop being ourselves and start becoming the version of ourselves most likely to make them stay. We dim things down or turn things up. We become detectives in our own relationships, searching for clues, looking for proof that what we feel is real and returned and safe. And over time, the relationship stops being about love and starts being about anxious management. You deserve so much more than that. Now, I want to talk to you about something that most relationship content never touches because it requires us to look inward rather than outward, and that is always the harder direction. Why has this person, the one with the secret, felt so compelling to you? Not just in a casual, surface way, but in that deep, bone-level way that makes it hard to simply walk away, even when part of you knows you probably should. The answer lives in your blueprint, in the attachment template we talked about earlier. Something about this person's emotional unavailability, the push and pull, the warmth followed by the withdrawal, the moments of intense closeness followed by strange distance. Something about that pattern feels familiar in your nervous system, not comfortable necessarily, but familiar, like a rhythm your body already knows how to move to. And familiar in the unconscious mind often gets registered as safe, even when it isn't. This is called repetition compulsion. It's one of the most quietly devastating forces in human emotional life. We return again and again to the dynamics that shaped our earliest understanding of love. Not because we're weak or broken, but because the unconscious mind is always trying to resolve what was never resolved, to get this time the outcome that wasn't available to us then. If the love you grew up watching was inconsistent, given generously one moment, withdrawn without warning the next, then the love that feels most alive to you in adulthood often carries that same unpredictability, because your system learned that love and uncertainty live together, that to feel love deeply, you have to be a little unsure of it. The person who loves you consistently, openly, without the push and pull, they can actually trigger a kind of restlessness in you because their love doesn't match the old pattern. It doesn't feel like what you learned to call love, and so part of you waits for the catch, waits for the withdrawal, waits for the moment it gets taken away. But here is the extraordinary thing about human growth. We can rewrite the blueprint, not easily, not painlessly, but truly and permanently. We can teach ourselves a new rhythm. We can learn to let consistent love feel like love. We can learn to let safety feel like passion. We can learn to let peace feel like enough, not because we've settled, but because we've evolved. And that evolution is exactly what is happening in you right now. That's why this moment, this particular turning point in your emotional life, matters so much. You are standing at the edge of two different chapters. One chapter continues the familiar pattern. It stays in the orbit of the person whose love requires you to be constantly earning, constantly wondering, constantly working to close the distance they keep recreating. That chapter will teach you more, but you've already learned what it has to teach. You've been learning it for a while now, and your soul is tired. That particular kind of tired that comes not from working too hard, but from waiting too long for something that keeps almost arriving but never fully does. The other chapter is quieter at first. It begins not with electricity, but with something that feels almost too simple to be meaningful. It begins with a person who asks how you are and actually listens when you answer. Who remembers what you said last week? Who doesn't make you feel like you're asking for too much when you need reassurance? Who offers their full attention without you having to compete for it? And slowly, not all at once, but with the gentle certainty of something real, that quiet becomes the most extraordinary sound you've ever heard, because it is the sound of a love that has nothing to hide. Now, I want to speak to something that might be rising in you as you hear this. A quiet resistance. Maybe even a little grief. Because letting go of the person carrying the secret, even if you haven't made a decision yet, even if it's only happening at the level of understanding, is a real loss. Even if what they've given you has been incomplete. Even if the uncertainty has cost you sleep and peace and parts of your sense of self. Even if the secret they're keeping has been quietly breaking something fragile in you. Grief doesn't require something to have been perfect. It just requires that it mattered. And this person mattered to you. Deeply. That mattering was real. Honor it. Let yourself feel the weight of it without drowning in it. Let yourself acknowledge what you hoped it could become, and let yourself be gentle with the version of you who held on to that hope longer than might have been wise. She wasn't naive. She was hopeful. And hope is one of the most beautiful things a human being is capable of. It just sometimes needs redirecting rather than extinguishing. Carl Jung believed that the greatest journey a human being can take is the journey toward wholeness. Not perfection, not a life without pain, but wholeness. the integration of all parts of yourself, including the wounds, the patterns, the places where you've been less than you wanted to be. And wholeness in love means this: choosing the person who is also choosing wholeness, choosing the person who is willing to be seen, who is doing the inner work, even imperfectly, who brings their real self, complicated, uncertain, growing, to the relationship rather than a curated version, designed to keep you at a comfortable distance. The person who truly loves you without a hidden secret isn't offering you perfection. They're offering you something better than perfection. They're offering you truth. And truth, when it is given freely and with love, is the only foundation on which something lasting can actually be built. So here is what I want to leave you with. Not a prediction, not a promise that something magical is coming at exactly the right moment, but something more grounded than that and more powerful. What you are feeling right now, this restlessness, this heightened sensitivity, this sense that something needs to shift, that is your inner wisdom doing exactly what inner wisdom does. It is pointing you somewhere, not toward what is comfortable or familiar, but toward what is true. The person hiding a secret from you will, at some point, be unable to keep it hidden. Not because destiny forces it, but because truth has a weight that eventually becomes too heavy to carry in silence. When that moment comes, you will not need to force it or chase it or demand it. You will only need to be clear about what you are and are not willing to accept. And the person who loves you quietly, consistently, without hiding, they are still there. Patient in a way that only real care allows a person to be patient. Holding a version of love that doesn't require you to be less than yourself to receive it. You don't have to choose today. You don't have to have all the answers tonight, but I want you to consider the possibility, really consider it, that you deserve love that comes with open hands, that you deserve someone who doesn't make you work for the whole truth of who they are. That you deserve to stop being the one who waits and start being the one who is waited for. Your intuition has been right about this all along. You knew something was hidden. You knew something was off. You knew the difference between how these two connections feel in your body, your sleep, your sense of peace. Trust that knowing, not the fearful, anxious part of it that wants certainty and closure right now, but the deeper, steadier part. The part that has been guiding you through every hard thing you've already survived. The part that knows, even when you're afraid to say it out loud, what kind of love you truly want. That part of you has never been wrong. And the love it's been pointing you toward, the real one, the open one, the one with nothing to hide. It is closer to you than the confusion you've been living in makes it feel. Let the secret come into the light when it comes. Let the truth settle where it needs to settle. And let yourself be free enough and brave enough and finally ready enough to receive love that doesn't ask you to question your own perception, to believe in it. You have waited long enough for something half given. It is time now for something whole.